Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are back in the garage, finally making a project. It's still crazy hot out, so this is probably going to be done in like a few different segments, but I'll stitch it all together and make one video. But like, I can only work out here so long before I just become wet. Today, what are we making? We're actually making a wood project. It's been a while, but let's get into it. Okay, so what are we making today? I have recently gone away from K-cups when I drink my coffee and have gotten one of those little like metal basket K-cup things that you put your just regular coffee grounds into. And because of that, I have a coffee scoop. In addition to the coffee scoop, I've got one of those like wire twisty frother things that I mix it with. So I have those two things and they're always laying around on the counter. So I decided, well, I'm going to build some kind of holder to hold these in a nice way on the counter so that I can have my coffee scoop and my frother and make the coffee in the morning. So I started working on like a mock-up out of cardboard, right? And yeah, before you even say anything, I totally get this looks like a toothbrush holder. So if you're not drinking coffee or you don't have these two things and you just drink K-cups, but you need a toothbrush holder, this might be for you too. Anyway, so I came up with this kind of design. I kind of came up with, I want a base, I want some kind of arm on it, and then I'm going to have two holes where I can put the frother to kind of hold that and then the coffee scoop in here. So this is my plan. I want to hollow it out. So this is where it started. Then I kind of made one out of pine. I rushed through it and built it one afternoon. So it's not straight in any way. It's all twisted up and stuff, but this is kind of my more refined design. And I even have, you can see I've got little notes on here to myself on things I want to do to make it even better. I did through tenon both of these pieces on both sides. I don't think I want that look. So I'm just gonna put some hidden tenons in there. Tenon joint. Yeah. So I'm just gonna put some hidden ones in there and not go all the way through as a through tenon. I've got some notes to like taper these holes so that it better fits the things inside of it. So this was my rough draft. What I'm going to make this out of officially is this piece of walnut. I went over on some of that slab that we made the box out of earlier and I cut off a chunk of it. It started off kind of looking like this, about an inch thick. So I cut off all the sapwood, planed it down. You could tell how much I had to plane off here. Planed it all down and got it down to just over a ½ inch thick all the way around. Everything is nice and square, true, and flat. There's no twist in it or anything. So that's where we're starting from, is just this piece of walnut here. So if we look at our model here, kind of deconstructed, we've got three major pieces. We've got the base, we've got the arm, and then we've got the top piece, essentially we'll call it. We're going to start with cutting out three rough pieces out of our piece of walnut. Let's get this marked up and start measuring these out. So if we start with the base here, we're looking to get 2.5 wide by 4.5 long. Our piece of wood we cut already is 4.5. So it's essentially the same width as that. I cut everything at 4.5. This is going to be a little bit shorter. So this piece I believe was close to 4 3/4. Yep. Or 4 5/8 or so. But because we're not through tenoning them, we don't need that exact length anymore. So we can do everything with that 4.5 inch piece of wood. So 2.5 is our first one. Then this arm here, the dimensions on that arm are just over an inch. So I'd say about 1.25 inches will go. And then this as well, I believe is 1.25 inches, yeah. In my piece of wood, I did notice I've got a check here. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but right here, there's a crack about halfway down and it goes kind of off over here. So I don't want that, but I do want my base made out of this side of the wood Because if you can see here, I've got some really cool swirl grain pattern, and I think that would be cool to have in the base. I want to make sure that I have enough distance away from this crack that it's not going to affect it. I'm going to do this at a white pencil so you guys can see it a little bit better. All right, and then from here, we'll take all of our other measurements. Okay, let's get this marked up. And again, these are just rough cuts, so I'm not doing any knife walls or anything on this yet. We've got everything's a little oversized so that we can plane down and square things up better. All right, well, that was a terrible cut. All right, so given the horribleness of that first cut, I'm going to use our bench dog, or bench hook, whatever you want to call it, to cut the remaining pieces this way. So we've got our base, our arm, and our top cut. Everything's perfectly square, 90 degrees on all edges all the way around. Perfect starting point. So the thing we're going to start with first is get our tenons cut on our arm. So we have a tenon on the top and a tenon on the bottom. The first measurement I'm setting my depth gauge, or my marking gauge, to 1/4 inch. That's going to be how deep I'm going into my base plate. So the base plate's a 1/2 inch thick. I want to go halfway down, so about 1/4 inch. So we're starting with that. And once we have that side, if you can see the line, yep. We're gonna do that side, we're gonna flip it over while we still have a 1/4 inch measurement on our depth, or our marking gauge. I keep calling it depth gauge today. On our marking gauge, we're gonna do the other side as well. Now we gotta cut our side pieces for our tenon. So we're gonna do those at 1/8 inch from each side. So that gives us a 1/4 inch tenon to go into it. That should be good and solid and strong enough to get enough tension on the wood, but still have strength and enough glue surface that it'll hold well. And then on the sides here, we're just going to kind of roll those in just to the line. Try not to go past, because that will show. You see that there? Just do that on all four. And then on the end grain as well. So if you see here, I've already marked and cut a lot of the tenon on this side. I've already done this side, so this is what our outcome is going to be. So we're not going all the way through. We've got gaps all the way around. That way, when we cut our mortise in our base piece, if we do mess up and we flex a little bit too hard on that mortise cut and it bends the wood or something, or it's not quite the prettiest joint, this will hide all of our crimes and sit flush. I've marked all these, I've done all my relief cuts. Now I just need to come in with a chisel and come into our lines there and kind of pop that out and square it off to make it look like that. You can use a saw on this, but because it's so fine and it's going into the end grain, it bothers me. I feel like I'm gonna mess it up that way. You could use a razor saw or something real thin maybe, but for something this small, I just use my chisel and pop off that grain. All right, so into the vise with it. And then I'm not gonna go all the way down to my line. If you can see here, there's my line. I'm gonna go about halfway up, and I'm not going to go straight on it. I'm gonna go kind of a down, I'm gonna bring my handle down and go in an upward facing motion, just because I wanna see how that grain is gonna split like that. So I could tell the grain is kind of going pretty straight. So do that again. Come down a little bit more now, and just gentle taps. Now at this point, I don't need so much the mallet anymore. I can kind of come in and just kind of pare down to my line. Nice, okay, that's looking good. Bring a little bit more light and just come in here and kind of go across the grain and make sure we're down to our line all the way across. Nice. All right, that's looking good. Cool. All right, I'm gonna flip it over, do the other side. So we're looking good on those sides. Now we're gonna flip it over. Turn it 90 degrees, I guess. And we're gonna do the ends here. So I've already cut down, I've got my line marked on this side. This is end grain, so this should pop pretty easy. But again, halfway down, and just kind of pop it with the palm of your hand. Now right into my line. Nice. Just a little cleanup there. Looking good. Check for square. Just a touch high over here. Looking good. Cool. All right, flip it over and do the other side. We've got our arm completely done as far as the tenons go. We're still gonna come back later and shape this a little bit, give it a little more definition. Right now, everything is real sharp edges, but this thing is looking great so far. Everything is nice, crisp, square lines. So we're gonna use this now as our reference to mark out our mortise hole in the base. All right, so I've been measuring and measuring and measuring here for the past, I don't know, 20 minutes, making sure that it's perfect. And what I've done is I've come in 1 inch from each side. So I'm 1 inch from this edge to here, 1 inch from this edge to there. That leaves a perfect 5/16 tenon or mortise hole that where it's going to fit in our tenon perfectly. And then I believe we're 7/8 of an inch long. So this lines up perfect there. The front of my base I've marked here with a little V. So if you can see, I kind of filled it in with white there just so you guys can see it better. But my lines are all the way there. I'm only going to guide my chisel off this front line to start with, and that way I can pare the back down a little bit to get a better fit. But I'm going to make sure that this front edge here is my perfect reference guide. So we need to chop a mortise in here at least 1/4 of an inch thick. You can go a little bit deeper if you want to, but we want to make sure we don't go all the way through, right? All right, so I've got a 1/4 inch chisel, which is not going to be enough, but my next one bigger is not knot is too big. So we're going to use this, and then we'll come back and we'll just kind of zigzag back and forth, or we'll just pare down as we need to. So what I'm going to do is the edge of my line is right here. I'm going to move it up a little bit and start here. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm just going to start making sure that I'm parallel with this line and I'm touching my line over here. I'm just going to start with a couple gentle taps. I'm going to move back a little bit. And keep tapping. Making sure I'm in my line, I'm nice and square. Almost to my line on the other side now. All right, so having the distance still on my line. And now I'm going to flip it almost to my line, but not quite on it. So now I'm going to flip around. Pulling out that waste as I go. We've got our mortise cut, nice and clean. Everything's nice and square. And it took me a minute, but I kept paring down both the sides to get it to fit. The fit this way fits perfectly. Just came in with some chisels and just kept cleaning and cleaning and cleaning debris. And now we pretty much line up in there and essentially press fit right in. Without any hammering, it's a perfect fit. We are square this way and we're square that way. Perfect. We've got our base cut, we've got our arm on and mortise in. That is looking just awesome. I cannot be happier with that fit. So now we just need to do that same exact thing with the top and get our top mounted on. It's the same process as the bottom, so I'm going to skip that and I'll come back when this is put on.
A few moments later.
We've got our entire piece jointed up. We've got both of our mortise and tenons chopped. Everything's fitting really nice and firm. There's no glue in here yet. So that is solid, square, true, and good to go. The problem is it's very boxy at the moment. So everything's just square and sharp. If you notice on our model here, we've got nice rounded base with a hollowed out section as well. So we also have our top is also tapered on both sides, rounded on the sides, and has our holes cut. So we need to start by giving this thing a little bit of shape. All right, so I used a compass, found my center point, kind of drew it on, and then came back over with kind of my circle template, found the same size, and went over it with just white pencil. So because it's walnut, it's hard to see. So hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. We've got our lines there we're cutting to now. So that will be the radius of the base. Nice. First radius all done. It's looking good. We've got all the radiuses cut now on both sides of the base piece, right? Then I went through and I put in our arm, pressed it into the mortise, and traced around the outside so I could get the footprint of how this thing sits. Then I measured on the inside a 1/4 inch away from the edge and marked a line all the way around. I don't know if I did the best with the marking gauge around the radiuses, but I couldn't think of a better way to do it to kind of score that reference line. It's close enough, and we'll clean it up when we're carving. And then went around 1/8 of an inch all the way around the actual arm just to give some, I don't want the cutout to come right up to the arm. I want a little bit of distance between it just so you can see the arm going in, the nice flat, and then hollow out the inside. So basically everything inside of here now, we're going to hollow out a little bit with a scoop and get some dimension or some depth in there. We've got our base done and we've got the arm done. Basically, I just rounded over the sides in kind of a nice way. I feel like it kind of mirrors the bottom. So I like the way that looks. It's coming out nice. The bottom, I just kind of went about 1/8 of an inch down all the way around and just kind of hollowed it out with the router plane. I think that worked really nicely. I'm debating if I'm going to round over these edges here. They're kind of sharp corners. They don't look like they match to me. So I'm thinking about kind of curving those over a little bit. Haven't decided if I want to do that yet or not. Maybe. I probably will. So that is that. The only thing left now is the top. So I've gone around and I've measured where I'm going to put my radiuses on both sides to match the bottom. Then I've gone halfway into that line, measured my marks, so that's where I'm going to drill my holes. I've got it on both sides, essentially, because I want to drill a smaller hole in the bottom and a larger hole in the top, and then I can carve away the inside to kind of taper that, is the idea, at least that I have. Then I've gone on the sides and I've gone out the full distance of whatever that circle would be, came down here, and then marked my diagonal lines going up. So it'll be curved but angled. And once I'm done with all that, then I'll go around whatever's left and kind of round over everything to get rid of the sharp edges. All right, so we've got our holes, our step holes drilled, one step into the other there, if you can see that. We've got good distance around the curves here so that we can cut our curves next, and then we'll come through and cut our tapers. We got a little bit of tear out on the back here, but it's okay because we're about to cut all that off anyway, so that's why I didn't start drilling back here and then come back through. Figured it's okay, I can just cut it off when we do the tapers. All right, so I'm working on tapering these holes, and I was going to file them with just a round file, go in there and file and smooth them all out. But the more I started looking at it, the more I realized I could just come in here with a small chisel and kind of define this step a little bit more. So like kind of clean up some of the tapering from the bit. I can make a nice, clean, defined shelf, and it kind of matches the bottom a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm going to go with. And I think it'll still give the same idea of gripping the frother, because the frother is tapered. When I put the frother in, the top of it should rest around that, and the small as it tapers should go in the smaller hole and still give that same effect. But I think it will be a much nicer look just having this step here. The only thing left to do on this is the frother is like, it's a handle, it's got a long wire, and at the bottom it's got this big round screeny wire thing that froths up your milk or your coffee or whatever. But it won't fit through the hole. So what I'm going to do is cut relief cuts on both sides of this, so that way you can put it on either side, or whatever you're putting in here, you don't have to put in through the hole. If you look at our model, I did the same thing, just kind of cut some slots into it. So we're going to do the same thing here. I don't know how big you want to make it. It's up to you. Obviously you want it wide enough to fit the wire through. All right, everything's been sanded to 220 grit. Everything's nice and smooth. Went around, it took forever to get around all these little edges and everything, but nice, clean, smooth lines everywhere. I left a couple tooling marks in just because I want people to look at this and know it's handmade. I don't want it looking machined. So I am very happy with it so far. So I'll come back when everything's glued up. It's just the two mortise and tenon joints. I'm just gonna put like a dab of glue on each one, compress it down, throw a clamp on it like that, and it's done. It's not a huge glue up, so. All right, so that's it. We've built our completed coffee frother scoop holder, countertop holder thing. So I got to come up with a better name for it, but I could not be happier with how it turned out. Got our cool little indentation in there, mortise and tenon joints. Everything turned out really nice. The finish on this is just, it feels like butter. It's really, really nice. Nice and soft, smooth. Everything works, holds it really well. So couldn't be happier. It's a great little small project to make for you or a loved one or somebody who really likes coffee maybe, or even the toothbrush guy that really wants to put his toothbrush on the counter in a really cool holder. This could be it. So that's it for today. If you like this type of content, subscribe down below, click the bell so that you don't miss the next project that we do. And leave comments. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know what you think of me. Thumbs up, all that fun stuff. I'll see you on the next one. fly in this garage, and he will not leave me alone. He just keeps flying around, buzzing my head. I can't get him out. I try opening the door, be free, go fly around, and he just brings back more people, more flies. I don't, drives me nuts.